Okay, so here's your samples and surveys notes. All right. What I'm expecting you to be able to do is identify sampling methods and also recognize bias in samples and surveys. All right, the first thing you have to know is that a population is all the members of the set. All right. So if I wanted to do a study of all the students at Sterling High School, then all the students at Sterling High School would be my population. Okay, so um, then what you would actually do is you would do a part of that population to find out, and that is called your sample. All right, so if I just use the students in our class, that would be considered the sample of the population. So a sample is just part of the population. The population is all the members of the set. All right, so you have to keep these things straight. These are your sampling types and methods, okay? So these things you got to keep straight from what we're going to learn later on. All right, so the first thing is a convenience. All right, convenience sample selects any member of the population who are conveniently and readily available. So if you're using a convenience, that would be, if we were in the classroom, a convenience sample of Sterling, a sample would be all the students in the classroom. All right, because you guys are all right there, you're all ready. So that would be an example of a convenience. All right, is when you use the people that are right around you. All right. The next sample, all right, is called a self-selected. All right, a self-selected sample, only the members of the population who volunteer for the sample. So, in a self-selected, you pick whether you're going to participate or not, or you choose to participate in it. All right. So you could go to the cafeteria and say anybody who wants to participate in my sample or in my survey, raise your hand, and that would be self-selected because they would choose to participate. All right. Next one is a systematic. All right, a systematic sample orders the population in some way and then selects from it at regular intervals. All right, so say I had a list of all the students at Sterling High School, and then I picked every 10th person to participate. All right, that would be systematic because I put them in I listed them. All right, ordered the population in a certain some way. I took a list of students from Sterling, all right, and then I select at regular intervals. My interval in that case was every 10th student, all right. So that was a system because that's an example of systematic sample. All right, and then the last one is a random. All right, a random sample gives all the members of the population equally chance to be chosen. Again, if I was doing this random and I listed all the students at Sterling High School on some kind of a board, suppose I just put them on the board and I just threw a bunch of darts, and anybody any name that the student that the dart stuck in, that they were picked. So that is a random method. Or I could put all of the names in a big pot and then just pull out randomly. Just pull names out. All right, so that is an example of a random sample. All right, so these are all sampling methods. Again, these are all the ways that you get the people to participate in your survey. It's not how you survey them. These are just ways that you get the group or get whoever your sample is, so that you can survey them and ask them questions. All right, a sample has a bias. All right, and bias is something you don't want in your sample. All right, so if you have a bias, you don't want that. So you're trying to keep this your sample as unbiased as possible. So a sample has a bias when part of the population is over or underrepresented. The bias is a systematic error. All right, so it's an error introduced by the sampling method. So in other words, if I were to do something like I wanted to find out if the students at Sterling High School wanted to fix up the girls' locker room, all right, and I, found a method, I guess convenience. I could try convenience and just select people around, but if there's too many girls in that because they would want it done, or too many boys in it because they wouldn't want it done, that would represent a systematic error. So that would be a bias in it because I had too many of that group represented. All right, so you want to try to keep it as unbiased as possible. All right, so analyzing sampling methods. So we're going to analyze them. The Courier Post wants to find out what percent of Sterling High School district are in favor of the property tax increase to raise money for a local park. What is the sampling method used for each situation? Does the sample list have a bias? Explain. All right. So first one is a newspaper article and text increase invites readers to express their opinion on their website. Again, invites, that sort of gives you a hint that it's asking people to participate. So this one would be self-selected. You would choose whether you want to participate or not. Now, sometimes you can explain that it may have a bias in it. The bias may be small, bias may be big. In this case, the bias could be, you could say there is a bias in that you're only getting the readers, all right, of that newspaper. All right, so that may introduce a bias in it, or you could say that there is no bias. All right, because everyone can get the paper. At the store, they could go to the library, and they can also, everyone can get to the library and use the computer. So you could go either way on this. And a lot of these, that's what happens, is they could go either way. All right, you just have to make sure that you explain it when you're telling me, so I know you understand what the word bias means. All right, next one, a reporter interviews people leaving the park in the area. This is convenience, all right, because they are conveniently and readily available. This would be a biased because people leaving the park are the people that use the park. So they don't care about the tax increase. They want the park to be better. All right, so they want the park to be nice. So again, I'm explaining that there is a bias in this, that people use the park, so they're going to want it to be nice. So they're not really going to care about, All right, and then survey service calls every 50th person from the local phone book. This one is systematic. All right. And again, this one you can explain that there's a bias or there isn't a bias, because only people in the local phone book are people that have an actual landline, a land phone. No cell phones are in the phone book, so you're eliminating a lot of people. And usually it's only the older people that are in the phone book because they're the only ones that usually have a landline. Everyone else usually has a cell phone. All right, might not be in the phone book. So you can explain this either way. You could say it's biased because you're only getting old people, or you could say, well, everyone can have a phone. So either way, but it just, again, as long as you explain it and I know that you understand the word biased. There's a U-try for you to do. All right, now, these are study methods. All right, these are methods for how you're going to get your information. All right, so in this first one, all right, this is an observational study. All right, you measure or observe members of a sample in such a way that they are not affected by the study. Usually they're not, they don't even know that you're doing a study. All right. Observational study means you do not have any contact with them. All right. So you're not going to talk to them. You're not going to ask them questions. You're not going to hand them a survey. They shouldn't even know they're participating in it. One of the things that I usually say is I could do an observational study in our classroom. If it's like baseball season, I could see who's your favorite team just by looking around to see if anybody's wearing certain shirts for certain teams and stuff like that. That would be an observational study. You don't even know that I'm walking around and looking for that. All right. So that's the important thing about an observational study. The people don't know they're being studied. So if, like on the test, I ask you, explain how you would do an observational study, and you say, well, I would give the person a survey and ask them questions. That's not an observational study. So make sure you understand, all right? And again, understand that these are the ways you're going to get your information. The other ways, the sampling method, was how you get the people to participate. This is how you're going to get your information. So that was the first one, observational study. The next one, this one is a controlled experiment. All right, in the controlled experiment, you divide your sample. All right, again, your sample is part of the population you're using that you got in some way into two groups. One group is going to be the treatment group, and the other one is going to be the control group that doesn't get a treatment. They usually just get like a sugar pill, which is called a placebo. All right. So if I was studying to see whether this new drug we came out with is going to help the coronavirus, and I had a group of 40 people, I would split it up, 20 on one side and 20 on the other side. I would give half of the group the new medicine and then give the other half a placebo, a sugar pill, and then I would compare the results on the treated group to the group that I didn't treat. All right. So those are the two methods, and then the last method is a survey. All right. So in a survey, you just ask a set of questions. All right. So you want to make sure you design your questions well, so that you can get reliable statistics. So you don't want to poorly design it. So when you're doing this, make sure you're thinking about that. All right. Analyzing study methods. What type of study method is described, and should the sample statistics be used to make a general conclusion about the population? All right. So in the first one, researchers randomly choose from two groups from 10 volunteers over a period of 8 weeks. One group is given ice cream before they go to sleep. The other's not. They wear a sleep monitor, and they record the dream activity. This is clearly a controlled experiment, because again, they're splitting them up. They know they're being studied. And then whether should the sample statistics be used to make a general conclusion about the population. There's only 10 volunteers, and they're going to split them up in two, so it's going to be 5 and 5. I don't know that that's big enough. All right, so I'm going to say not a big enough sample for reliable results, or to make a general conclusion, all right, about the whole population. All right, students in a science class record the height of beans plants as they grow. This is an observational study. And this one, you could say that it's reliable, or you could say that it's not reliable and you can give them information. It all depends how they're doing this. If they're doing them outside, then it should be reliable for our area. If they're doing them inside, then it might not be reliable because they're not giving, they're not, the climate isn't being a factor. So I'll just say if inside climate is not a factor, so may not be reliable. All right, so again, I'm just giving you an example of where that could or could not be used. All right, and then student council asks every 10th student in the lunch line if they like the cafeteria food. Again, this is a survey. All right, because they're asking them questions about it. Now, the problem is they're only asking the students in the lunch line. Students in the line usually like the food, so it could be biased. All right, so it could be biased because you're only asking the ones in the. All right, so again, that's analyzing methods. All right, you have a U-try. I'm not going to do this because I can't show you the picture. I usually do this with a picture. So this one I'm not going to do. So that's it. And then I want you to do the classwork. All right, worksheet that's in OneNote for homework.